Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm Sank84 and welcome to my top 10 games of 2022. Yes, it's that time of the year again when everybody and their granddad gives out their views on the games of the year. And just like last year, I'm going to be doing that again with a special little twist. So, yes, unfortunately, I don't think I have actually played 10 different games that came out in 2022. However, I have played multiple games for the very first time in 2022. So, just like last year, we're going to be adding our own conditions to this list. So, the first major condition to get a game on this list this year is I must have played the game for the very first time in 2022. So, from the 1st of January this year up until the 16th of December this year, any game that I have played for the very first time during that period can qualify for it. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. The next thing is the game has to have appeared on the channel. There are several games that I would love to have put on here, but unfortunately, I haven't played them on the channel. I have played them on a different console. And unfortunately, because I don't have a capture card, I was unable to make videos on them. Hopefully some point in the future that will change and I can get myself a capture card and we can do more than just the PC games. I can do some console games as well on the channel, but until I've got myself a capture card and know how to use it, that is just something that's just going to have to sit and wait for now. But hopefully some point in the future, hopefully not too long away, we can make a change to that. So yes, as I say, option 2, to make it on the list, you must have an active video on the channel. Third condition, yes, the game has to be the full game. So any demos that I have played will not qualify. The game has to have been played on the channel in full. The full version of the game. Now, I do have some honourable mentions we'll get to where I do mention some demos that I've enjoyed playing, and I look forward to playing the full game at some point. But just because I enjoyed the demo and I'm wanting to play the game, that will not qualify it for this list because I only played the demo. I haven't played the full game to see what it's all about in full. With that being said, I think they are the 3 main rules. There may be 1 or 2 other little minor conditions on there to help me narrow it down. But yeah, nothing too major. Because yeah, when I sat down and wrote this list, I started off with 20 games. And it's taken me a while to narrow it down to the 10 you see today. So with that in mind, we're going to start off with our first honourable mentions. Now, there are 2 sections to this. The first one I'm doing now, and that is the demos. There were several demos I played this year that I really enjoyed. But either the full game isn't out yet, or I just haven't got round to playing the full game yet. So I can't really, as I said, let them on. So, the honourable mentions for the best demos go to, in no particular order, Patrick's Paradox, what I thought was an absolutely amazing puzzle game. I really enjoyed it, and while I do know the full game is out, I just haven't had a chance to get it and sit down and play it properly. But I'm pretty sure that would have made it onto the list had I got round to playing it. Next is Oxygen. Now, Oxygen isn't out yet. It's due out next month, I believe. I will be keeping my eye on that because that's another one that I would love to get my hands on and play properly. It's not often a city build that captures me the way Oxygen did, but here's the hoping that the full game is as good, if not better, than the demo. And of course, Starship Troopers. I mean, that game was absolutely amazing. I mean, that wasn't even a demo I had my hands on. That was a pre-beta release. And even that was really, really good. And while again, a lot of that has made it into the full game, what is out now, unfortunately, yeah, I've not played the full version, so I cannot give it an honest opinion and say whether it would have made it into my top 10 or not. But that's the honourable mentions for the demos out of the way. Let's get on with the actual top 10. And of course, we're going to be starting with number 10. D&D Adventure. This is a text-based D&D RPG, and I'll admit I went into this when I did the first one not expecting much. I was expecting to do the video and I wasn't expecting much out of it. However, I got hooked. And then the second book came out and I decided I had to do that one. And yes, when the third one comes out, I will be looking at doing the first chapter of that one to see. So when all three books are out, you can choose between the rogue, the wizard, or the demon and follow their stories. You get to live their stories and make decisions for them and see how them decisions change the story. And will they survive to the end of the story with your decisions? You have to manage so many different parts and make sure you're making the right choices at the same time, because sometimes the right choice is not the best choice, and the best choice might actually be the wrong choice. So you have to really judge and balance everything to try and get through it. And I've got to say, it is a really well put together story. Because that's what it is, basically. It is just a story that you're reading. I went back to it after the video, and a lot of games I don't go back to. I'll do the video, and afterwards I go, okay, that was nice, and that's it. I'll never play that game again. But this, I did. I went back, and I've completed both stories. Number 9. War for the Overworld. An RTS that brings home the feel and nostalgia of Bullfrog's Dungeon Keeper, yet given its own fresh look and ideas. And it just, to me, this just feels like what we were promised for Dungeon Keeper 3. Back in the day when we played Dungeon Keeper 1, then they brought out 2, and it was one of the first games where you got to play the baddie. Not many games, if any, back then allowed you to be the baddie, and so many games since then have tried this. They've looked at Dungeon Keeper and said, okay, we're going to do our own version of it. And there have been a lot of hit and misses. But I think War for the Overworld hits that Dungeon Keeper 3 target spot on, or as close as to the bullseye as you can get without it being Dungeon Keeper 3. And that's the main reason why it's made it into number 9. Number 8. Evoland. Evoland is actually a game that I fantasized about making all them years ago when I was back in college. Back at the beginning of the new millennium, when I was in college, when I was young, bright-eyed, and had so many dreams, I fantasized about making a game. And I always wanted to make a game that took old classic Game Boy game at the start, and had the game change with you. As the character changed and got better, the game got better. And that is exactly what Evoland does. It takes the basics, and as your character evolves, the world and the graphics and the game evolve with you. So many games have like a town that will change over the course of the game. And that's nice. It has a nice feel. But to actually see the game itself evolve and change as your character does, then yeah, this just had that magical feel, and it was just a novelty that I would love to see the devs expand on. Number 7, University Spellcaster. So who has never wanted to build a school for snotty, self-righteous, magically enhanced kids, only to see all that hard work you've put in to drag them up by the wand, to give them a lesson and teach them the right way to do things, all destroyed because of a time limit. Then having to start all over again with a brand new school on a brand new location, with a brand new time limit, and a brand new bunch of snotty-nosed kids. That's what University Spellcaster does so very, very well. It is brilliant in the way it lays it out, the way you have so much control, yet you're always hoping for the right roll of the dice, or turn of the card in this case, and it just has that, pun intended, magical feel about it that makes you want to keep going back after your school's been destroyed to build another one, to do it better and bigger. And there's just something about that I really did enjoy playing. Number 6, Peglin. And this is a big surprise for me. There's a few surprises on this list, and this is one of them. When I first looked at it, I was going to ignore it. I looked and I wasn't keen on what I saw. But I give it a go. And the instant that I saw all them balls flying around the screen, bouncing here, there and everywhere, and then watching as that ball went flying into the face of your enemies, I just loved it. And the randomness just adds to the enjoyment of it. In fact, that randomness makes a defeat give you that more determination to go again, in the hope that you will get a ball that you like and you know how to use better than any other, and that can push you on, and the hope that that one enemy that you just hate doesn't turn up in this next run. And there's not much more I can say about Peglin, really. It is just a great time waster of a game. Okay, now it's time for the top 5. And these games just gave me that little something extra that no other game has managed to do. These games have left an imprint on me. The games before this and the games that haven't managed to make it on the list, while I've enjoyed playing them, they were enjoyable to play. These games have left me with that itch. That itch that I know in years' time I will be wanting to go back and play again. I'll be scrolling down my list wondering, what can I play? I'll sit and go, you know what? Yeah, let's give that one a go again. It's been a while since I've played it. Let's jump back in and enjoy it. And I know I will enjoy it just as much as I did when I played it this year for the first time. Number 5, Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire is a beautiful text-based RPG where your choice actually and genuinely affects the game and other characters. Now, many games out there claim to give you a choice. They claim that your choice matters and your choice will affect the game and the outcome. But it doesn't really matter what choice you pick. In Sacred Fire, it does. And the smallest decision you make can have a huge impact later on. You could make a decision with one character and just not talk to them earlier on, and later on in the game a huge section is missing. Or on the flip side, you ignore them and it adds a huge section with consequences for not talking to them earlier on. And I just love the fact that things like that make you think. And on top of that, there's no rewind, there's no do-overs. You make a choice, you are stuck with that choice for the entire game. There's no saving. Once you click that choice, the game saves there, and that is it. The only way to redo that choice is to start a brand new game and hope that choice comes up again. Because you may make a choice earlier on that changes that choice that you just made. You may get a roll of the dice that doesn't go the way it went the first time, that can change your game later on. You can pick up an injury or avoid an injury that changes the chance of success of a decision later on in the game. And that is just unique in my book. I've never known a game to be that critical thinking in its decision making, and I love that. It just has that actions have consequences feel to it, and more games need that in it. Number 4, Fuzz Force. So grab your dice and roll, but watch out because not all die are created equal. In Fuzz Force, you need to match up the dice you have got with the abilities you gain. Sometimes they match up perfectly and sync spot on, and you can fly to the end of the level and coast it no problem. Or you can get abilities and dice that don't match up at all, and you end up getting killed on the first fight because you just hit 4 zeros on the run and there's just no coming back. And that is brilliant. Not only do you have that to try and contend with, there are multiple characters and multiple weapons with their own abilities themselves. So just because your dice and your abilities don't match up, well, your weapon could have an ability on it that can get you out of a sticky situation. And that is just another real nice twist on the gaming genre as well. It just adds replayability, and not enough games nowadays, I feel, have that replayability. And the good thing is as well, with each playthrough only being relatively short, you don't need to dedicate days and days of time to play it. You can sit down in a short time, do a run, and that's it. And then if you've got time, you can do another one. If not, you can just pick up a run at any point, and this game just does that perfectly. Okay, now we're getting into the top 3. These games were the first 3 games on this list, and now these 3. They went on the list first before I even thought about any other games, and they've stayed here. They might have jiggled for position at some point and sometime as I was changing and thinking about how games should be placed, but these games just stood out this year for me, and I can see me talking about them, reference them, playing them for years to come. And we're going to start off in third with Vampire Survivors. And this has got to be the biggest shock on this list. For the simple fact, this game wasn't even meant to be on my channel. When this game came out, I was directed towards it. I had a look at it, I give it a test run and went, not for me. Nope, no chance. I'm getting a refund. I forgot to get the refund. But I left it there and decided, never mind, it wasn't that bad. Maybe at some point in the future when I give up on YouTube, I can go back in my own time and play it. Maybe I just wasn't in the right frame of mind because I was too busy trying to concentrate on how this would work in a video. But yeah, when I broke my arm and was unable to play with two hands because my left arm was all strapped up and taped to me and casted, and you know the deal when you break something. So I was playing one-handed, and someone mentioned this again, saying this would be a great one-handed game. So I was like, you know what? Let's give it a go. And I am glad I did. Not broke my arm. I'm glad to give this game a go. Because I have been addicted to this game. If I am not recording a video or editing or uploading, I'm playing it. I'm doing runs, and while I may not be getting victory every time, that's not the point of the game. The game is just to make unbelievably overpowered characters and have fun running into hordes of enemies, knowing you are practically invincible, practically unstoppable, and you just wait and watch that timer tick down until death finally turns up and puts you out your misery and ends your run. Because, well, he isn't a very patient person, Death, and after half an hour of watching all of his minions fail, he decides to do the job himself and wipes you out. And while I have been told you can defeat Death, I've never seen it done and not been able to do it myself. So that's still a challenge that I am trying to do on it. But yeah, Vampire Survivors, I've got to say, again, this was just an amazing game that nearly never made it to the channel. Let alone did I ever expect it to make it to the top 3. Number 2. Return to Monkey Island. How this has not made it to number 1 is... Okay, I know I just said Vampire Survivors was the biggest surprise on the list, but how Return to Monkey Island has not made it to number 1 has got to be a bigger surprise than Vampire Survivors being on this list. Because I have been waiting for this game for years. 30 years I have been waiting for this game. And just a bit of backstory. I have loved, I mean loved, the Monkey Island series ever since The Secret of Monkey Island was first loaded up in front of me. Back when I was barely bigger than a footstool and I got to play The Secret of Monkey Island, I fell in love with the music, the characters, the story, everything I loved. And I've loved the series, and I have played every single Monkey Island game there has been. Even the Monkey Island game that we don't talk about, that came out in multiple parts on the Wii, that you had to pay for each individual section of it. And they didn't even sync up. It was like 5 separate games that just followed on from each other. And you couldn't carry things over from one into the next. You kind of started with a brand new inventory. So if you'd missed something in the first section, you would automatically be given it when you started the second section. And yeah, well, we're not going to get into that because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Return to Monkey Island. And when I heard about this, I knew instantly it was going to be on my list. I knew the instant this game was mentioned, when it came out, it would be on my Game of the Year list. I was expecting it to be number one, but instead it has been knocked down and relegated to number two. And I've got to say, I'm probably going to be shot down for saying this, but I love the voice acting in this game. I love the music and the feel of the game. And yes, I even love the graphics. And I know that's a taboo subject with a lot of people with this game, but I do love the graphics in it. It's what I imagined The Secret of Monkey Island would look like if it wasn't pixelated as it was when it originally came out. Forget the HD version and the updated version. The graphics I see when I play Return to Monkey Island is what I imagined as that child Monkey Island to look like when I looked at them pixels. And the fact as well that they've even brought in so many iconic characters with slightly new twists is again a lovely touch. Something that's kept going throughout the core of the Monkey Island games, and they've kept in this, and that is just, I've just fallen madly in love with this game and this series all over again. But now, before we get to our number one game, before we find out what game I have enjoyed more than any other game in 2022, there are two games I would like to shout out and give honourable mentions for. Now, these games I enjoyed playing. However, the reason they've not made it on the list was simply because after I finish recording a game, if I enjoy it, I will keep playing it. I will play it, even if it's still technically recording, I will keep playing for a bit before I decide to come off and do the editing. And these two games I did that with. But the issue with them, and the reason they didn't make it on the list, was simply because they were so short. Within an hour or so of me finishing the recording of the episode that they were in, I'd completed the game. And I just couldn't justify these games being that short making it onto the list. Especially since so many of the games that are on this list have replayability, and I just don't feel these two games have that replayability in them in the current stage that they are in at the moment. And they are Ravenous Devils and Fayburrow. Two completely different games, but I loved them both. I enjoyed them both so much, but I just found them too short. The game was over before I'd even got into it, and that's what let them games down. I don't know if, had they been longer games, would that feel the enjoyment have gone? But I did feel I was just getting into the game when I got, congratulations, you finished. And that's why them two just didn't quite make the list this year. But this is what you've came for. This is the reason you're here. And hopefully still here. My personal number one game of 2022. And just to remind you, the reason the games are the way they are, the 3 rules to make it on this list. Well, the 3 main rules anyway. It must be a full game. It's not allowed to be a demo. It doesn't matter when the game was first released. That's irrelevant. However, I personally cannot have played it before the 1st of January 2022. And, of course, the video has to be on my channel. And it's that second one that I need to emphasise for my game of the year. Because this game did not come out in 2022. This game did not come out in 2021. In fact, my game of the year for 2022 came out in 2007. And yet, somehow, some way, while knowing the game existed, I've never had anything to do with it until now. I never played it, watched a video on it, or understood anything about the game until I decided to play it this year. And that is a huge letdown on my point, because I cannot believe how much I have missed and how much catching up I've got to do. I am, of course, talking about, drumroll please, The Witcher. Now, what can I realistically say that people have not been saying since 2007? As I said, I don't know how I've missed this. I don't know how it's taken me so long to get to this point to play it, but I'm so glad I did. I am loving this series. I'm loving the story. I'm loving the gameplay. I do not love the battle system on it. I hope and pray that in number 2 they change the battle system, because that is a dreadful battle system. But even that I can overlook, because I do enjoy the story. The game itself is amazing, and I just can't believe, the biggest thing I take away from it is the fact I overlooked it. And if I could go back and slap 2007 me over the face and say, go and buy it and play it, I would, but I can't, unfortunately. So that means 2002 me gets to enjoy all that enjoyment right now, with yous joining me in it. And that is it for this year. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about games that I've enjoyed this year. Let me know down below what you think. I know there are plenty of games out there that are going to be in other people's top 10, but unfortunately they don't make it into mine because I haven't played them. And I don't think it's fair to add a game to my list that I've not played. How can I judge a game and say how good it is if I've not played it myself? So, hopefully you've enjoyed this. Here's to a happy Christmas to you all and a very happy New Year. And here's to another 12 months of some great games, some stressful games, and us enjoying ourselves. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what gaming's all about? Just enjoying yourself and having fun. So I hope to see you back here every day until this time next year when we do this all again. But in the meantime, I've been Sank84. This has been my top 10 games of 2022. Thank you so much for joining me. Look after each other. And until next time, goodbye.